MOZA has just released their first ever shifter, and it takes the form of a 7-gear H-pattern configuration. This joins the recently released handbrake to finally form a complete lineup of sim racing products, including wheels, pedals, a handbrake and a shifter. To quickly summarise what we have here, this shifter features 7 forward gears and 1 reverse. Both reverse and 7th gear are locked and require you to push the gear lever down to engage them. The body is an all-metal design, leading to this sleek external aesthetic. And inside there's a patented shock-absorbing damping system, which is designed for a realistic shifting feel. And there's also an auto rev matching system in there somewhere. So yeah, as you can see, this shifter is pretty enticing straight off the bat. Now, I'm not going to stray away from the obvious comparison here, and that's with the Fanatec Club Sport shifter. This MOZA HGP shifter takes on a pretty similar form. The shape and size are both reasonably close, and this has kind of been a trend with some of MOZA products so far. I'm looking at you, R9 Wheelbase. But MOZA Racing has obviously seen what works in the past and has used that as a baseline to work from. The Fanatec shifter has been one of the most popular sim racing shifters for years now, but that shifter is starting to show its age a little. So in comes the MOZA HGP shifter. While this shifter may look similar to other products that I've just mentioned, it is slightly smaller. The Club Sport shifter measures 127mm wide and deep, and the base sits 148mm tall. In comparison, this MOZA shifter is around 140mm deep by 100mm wide, so slightly deeper due to its protruding mounting plate, but also slightly skinnier. And the base sits at just 110mm, shaving off around 35mm in height. So it's slightly more compact, a little bit lighter, but the build quality is top tier. The entire base is constructed from CNC machined aluminium, and it feels like it could survive a drop from a pretty tall height. The gear shaft is also constructed from aluminium and allows for customizable shifter knobs due to its screw functionality. The knob included is perfectly adequate. It's smooth and finished in a black powder coat and feels nice in your palm. The H-pattern slots blend seamlessly with the top plate, and there's a dust cover just underneath to prevent any wear or tear over time due to dust entering the internal mechanism. Overall, this is a very smart looking shifter, if not a little bit bulky in its overall design. There are larger shifters on the market, but there are certainly smaller ones as well. So let's take a look at just how this H-pattern shifter actually performs. And I do have to say, I really enjoy using it every time I jump into a manual car. Straight away you can feel how well made this shifter is. I did mention it just now, but the all metal construction really helps this shifter shine, and that echoes through to the performance. Each gear throw feels pretty heavy, meaning you do need to put a little bit of force into moving the shifter. This replicates a real world car fairly well, and is a feeling that many sim racing shifters fail to replicate. With the MOZA shifter, the resistance is higher than most, and that's a good thing. When you engage a gear, there is a really satisfying clunk as the lever slots into place, and each engagement feels smooth rather than clunky. There is a rather loud audible sound at the peak of each shift, which is a combination of the gear mechanism engaging and the metal gear lever making contact with the top plate. I would have liked to see some form of additional damping at the very peak of the gear lever travel to reduce the sound a little bit. Moving through the gears feels really nice. You can feel when a gear is disengaged, and there is a progressive resistance as you move the gear lever from side to side. Over time, I really got a good sense of where the gear lever was thanks to this progressive resistance. In total, there are 6 forward gears which all feel really positive to use, and then there's an additional 7th gear to the top right and a reverse gear to the top left. To access both of these, you need to push down on the gear lever, and this is a solid feature that prevents any embarrassing moments on track of accidentally selecting reverse gear instead of first. And the push down mechanic isn't intrusive enough to stop me from using those 2 gears when I do need to, although to be honest, I very rarely used either of them in the heat of a race. Now, my one big issue with this shifter is the lack of any sequential mode. There is only a H-pattern mode available out of the box, and This is a big miss, especially as direct competitors do feature both H-pattern and sequential modes. This means that if you want a sequential and H-pattern shifter, you'll either have to look elsewhere or purchase a sequential shifter separately. Now, I do want to quickly touch on the intelligent downshift function, which acts as an auto rev matching feature. This is a big part of this shifter's marketing, but as of the launch day, which is the day I'm releasing this review, I haven't been able to test it. MOZA hasn't enabled this functionality yet, but say they will do just after launch, so it will be ready by the time customers receive the first shifters. Due to not being able to test this feature, I won't spend too long on it, but I'm told it's designed to automatically blip the throttle as you downshift. This negates the need for you to use a heel and toe technique every time. I'll look to update this review either in the description or via another video once I've had a chance to try this feature out, and I'll let you know exactly how it works in practice and whether it's a decent addition. But for now, I'm going to move past it. And I'll move right on to the mounting and compatibility. To start with, there is a seriously missed opportunity in terms of the mounting. Whether it was for aesthetic reasons or for more technical reasons, there's no built-in way of side mounting or rear mounting this shifter to your rig. Quickly touching on the Fanatec Club Sport shifter again, the body of that shifter features a pretty cool design, allowing you to side or rear mount it with ease, but that functionality is missing here. Instead, you have to bottom mount this shifter, which is fine with my sim rig, but if you're racing on an 80/20 rig or you're short on bottom mounting options, you're kind of a little stuck. There is a desk clamp available, but I've not seen this, so I'm unsure whether it'd solve the problem or not, but I guess it wouldn't. Other than the lack of side or rear mounting options, the bottom mounting options are actually quite good. There's a range of slot gaps and holes allowing you to mount this from the top down, or there are plenty of additional threaded holes underneath if you want to mount from underneath the shifter, which is the route I've gone for here. And once mounted, this shifter isn't moving anywhere, so I'm perfectly happy with this aspect. In terms of compatibility, around the back of the shifter there are two options for connecting this to your PC or sim rig. I say PC because, like all MOZA products to date, there is no console compatibility yet. There is a USB connector and an RJ connector, and you can use either of these to connect the shifter to either your PC directly or to the MOZA hub, which is what I'd recommend. This route just reduces the amount of USB cables running to your PC. And once you've mounted the shifter, the setup couldn't be easier. Simply install the Pit House software, which can be found on MOZA's website, then run through the shifter calibration, which just has you wiggling the gear lever from left to right. It's important you do this as the shifter won't fully work in game without doing so. I had an issue where it thought first gear was third gear, but a quick calibration sorted that out. So now we get onto the price, and this HGP shifter will cost you $149 or pounds roughly. When you think about that price compared to other products, it's pretty mega. The Fanatec Club Sport shifter costs around $100 more than this, but it does have a few additional features. And the ever popular Thrustmaster TH8A costs $20 more. In comparison with the TH8A shifter at roughly the same price, this MOZA offering looks and feels much more high-end. So ultimately, I think that price represents pretty good value for what you're getting. Now, the MOZA HGP shifter is an exciting prospect. It certainly looks pretty smart and striking with its all black design and sharp angles, and during use it holds up extremely well. While there are a couple of additional features that I would have liked to have seen included, mainly a sequential shift mode, the H-pattern provides a really nice experience thanks to its design, meaning it's almost impossible to miss a shift. I believe at around £150 or dollars, it does represent pretty good value. While it certainly isn't the cheapest shifter available, its direct competitors do all cost more than this one. This allows it to slot into a relatively large gap which hasn't really seen a new shifter product for a good number of years. This shifter can be used with any other sim racing wheel or product, but it fits perfectly into the ever-expanding ecosystem that MOZA Racing is building. If you currently own any of MOZA's sim racing products, or you simply like the look of this shifter over other offerings, then it will slot seamlessly into your sim racing setup.